Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tracing the ripple effects of a single tragic accident that fundamentally altered the life of the king of pop. You know, when we look at Michael Jackson's legacy, we usually see this incredible tapestry of unparalleled musical genius, record-breaking philanthropy, and, of course, highly publicized struggles. But to really understand the trajectory of his private reality, we have to isolate one specific moment in time, a moment where a sudden physical trauma sparked a battle that lasted for decades. So, let's jump straight back to 1984 to answer this massive question. Jackson was at the absolute peak of his global superstardom. He had just completely shattered records with Thriller, making him the most famous entertainer on the planet. His influence was literally breaking down racial barriers in pop culture. And naturally, corporate America wanted a piece of that magic, which led to a massive record-setting promotional deal with PepsiCo. But what was supposed to be this triumphant, simulated concert for Pepsi's New Generation campaign? Well, it instantly turned into a harrowing medical emergency. On January 27, 1984, at the Shrine Auditorium in LA, Jackson was performing for a full audience during the commercial shoot. Suddenly, the pyrotechnics misfired. They accidentally set Jackson's hair on fire, causing severe, second-degree burns to his scalp. Right there, in front of thousands of fans and rolling cameras, his life was permanently changed. Following the accident, Pepsi eventually settled out of court, and Jackson received $1.5 million. To put that into perspective, that's close to $4.6 million today. It's a huge sum for a workplace injury, for sure. But the way Jackson actually handled this money, it reveals something incredibly profound about his character. He didn't keep a dime of it. Instead, he gave the entire settlement right back to the facility that treated him. He donated the full $1.5 million to the Brotman Medical Center in Culver City, California. His generosity was so impactful that the hospital actually renamed their burn ward the Michael Jackson Burn Center in his honor. It was this remarkable act of philanthropy, born entirely out of his own intense personal pain. And this perfectly captures the massive duality of his life moving forward. On one side, you've got the public triumph, the historic world tours, the continued charity work, just untouchable global dominance. But then, in stark contrast, you have his private reality. To treat the extensive damage from the fire, Jackson had to go through these incredibly painful reconstructive scalp surgeries. And to cope with the sheer agony of those procedures, he was introduced to prescription painkillers. If we map this out on a timeline, there is a direct, heartbreaking path. It starts with the 1984 burns, runs straight through the reconstructive surgeries of the late 80s, and heads right into the early 90s. As the medical procedures piled up, his reliance on painkillers escalated. But what really tipped this dependency into a full-blown crisis was the intense, unimaginable psychological stress of the 1993 child abuse allegations. When those allegations hit in 1993, the emotional toll was catastrophic. During the investigation, Jackson was subjected to a humiliating 25-minute police strip search, just so authorities could photograph his body for signs of vitiligo, a skin condition he had recently disclosed. The pressure of that search and the overarching allegations absolutely devastated his health. He reportedly lost 10 pounds, stopped eating to the point of passing out and needing IV feedings, and began leaning heavily on his medications just to survive the ordeal. By November of that year, the situation was visibly unraveling. The data here is pretty stark. On November 8th, during a deposition in Mexico City, he appeared extremely drowsy, slurred his speech, and couldn't even recall the release dates of his own albums. 4 days later, he canceled the rest of his Dangerous World tour and flew to London, where he collapsed at the airport. When his luggage was searched at a clinic, they found 18 vials of medicine. He was admitted right away and given Valium just to start the grueling process of weaning him off the painkillers. His inner circle absolutely knew how grave this was. His lawyer at the time, Bert Fields, came right out and said publicly that Jackson's life was in danger, noting he was barely able to function on an intellectual level. Basically, the physical trauma of 1984 had entirely merged with the psychological trauma of 1993 to create this perfect storm of dependency. And here's where we hit a truly tragic twist of irony. Back in 1984, Jackson signed that record-setting $5 million deal with Pepsi, which they later renewed for $10 million. But on November 14th, 1993, PepsiCo, the exact same company at the center of the accident that introduced him to painkillers, severed their historic 9-year relationship. They dropped him specifically because of the canceled tour and the resulting drug issues. Ultimately, this decades-long battle with physical pain, severe anxiety, and crippling insomnia ended in tragedy on June 25, 2009. Jackson died from an overdose of propofol, which was administered by his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray. But there's a deeply chilling detail from Dr. Murray's police statement that ties this whole explainer together. Jackson requested that lidocaine be mixed with the propofol. Why? Because the anesthetic burned his heavily used veins. He actually referred to the lidocaine as his anti-burn medicine. Think about that. 25 years later, he was literally still fighting the burn. Moving into our next section, the 2026 biopic Crafting the Legacy of the King of Pop. Shifting gears from his real-life tragedy to how his legacy is being crafted today, let's look at the highly anticipated 2026 biopic simply titled Michael, directed by Antoine Fuqua and starring Michael's real-life nephew, Jafar Jackson. This film takes a very specific angle, largely because it's produced with the full approval of the Michael Jackson estate. It portrays him as a gentle, perpetual innocent, almost like a superhero figure fighting against his father's domineering control. And to explain his eccentricities and later medical struggles, the film leans heavily on that 1984 Pepsi accident as his core origin story. But shaping that legacy, it came with a massive literal cost. The estate had to shell out $50 million on reshoots. During production, lawyers uncovered a clause from Jackson's 1994 financial settlement regarding the 1993 allegations. That contract strictly forbade any mention or depiction of the accuser in a film. So, a staggering $50 million was spent just to completely scrub those 1993 allegations from the movie. Naturally, this heavily sanitized approach has drawn some sharp criticism. And interestingly, some of the loudest pushback came from his own family. His daughter Paris Jackson publicly stated that the narrative is being controlled. She said it panders to a specific section of the fandom that still wants to live in a fantasy. Critics have pointed out that the film essentially moonwalks around the absolute darkest realities of his life just to preserve a very specific image. Which leaves us with a pretty profound question to wrap up this explainer. As we look back at that terrifying fire at the Shrine Auditorium in 1984, the cascading tragedies that followed, and the carefully constructed Hollywood portrayal we'll see in 2026, how do we reconcile the undeniable genius we hear in the music with the deeply complicated, often painful truth of the man who made it? It's a question we'll likely be grappling with for decades to come.